if you're looking at understanding European culture, and specifically Danish culture, one of the things you have to look at and you have to understand is the university system. Because the university system is actually, it's fundamentally different at a very core and very basic level than what we have in the US, and what is present, I would say, in the UK, and a lot of the other colonial, former colonial countries. That all share kind of similar education systems as well. And colonial, I mean British colonial, I suppose. I apologize for French colonials and others. But what's quite interesting is in the US, especially when you get to the university system, you're not really expected to specialize until you're halfway through your bachelor's degree. And at that point, you declare your major at the beginning of the 4-year bachelor's, but that's you can change that quite easily all the way up into the start of your junior year. And for my part, I did 2 years of business before I decided that I wanted to switch to communication. I've got friends that switched to medicine from philosophy, or you know, there's really not. You have to do some prereqs, but the way the education system is structured, everybody basically gets exactly the same high school education, and then by the time you get to university, if you go to university, of course, there are still a lot of basic prereqs. You have to take Com 100, you have to take basic language, you have to take basic maths, you have to take a basic sociology, history, philosophy course. And that's basically what the vast majority of your coursework consists of during the first 2 years of your program. The European system and the Danish system in particular, they tend to be very, very different. And I know the Germans are quite similar to this as well, where in gymnasium, they're equivalent to high school. You're already starting to specialize and go down a business track or a science track. And then by the time you get to your bachelor's, the approach to your bachelor's has far fewer prerequisites, and you're already far more specialized and pigeonholed into something. And I think that's very interesting, because it fundamentally shapes the difference in how we think and where we place our priorities. And where I ran into this as perhaps an issue was when I was looking for jobs. And one of the things from a U.S. standpoint and a U.S. perspective is that you want to show as much diversity and competence, of course, but as much diversity as you possibly can. You want to show that you can handle a lot of different things in tandem, that you've got, you know, skills over here, and you were the president of the debate club, but you were also a great athlete, and then you also had this incredible social life, and then you love science, but you can also write sonnets. You know, that's kind of that Renaissance persona that's incredibly diverse and all over the place. And you give me all these different tasks, and I can chew through them. Not an issue. That's what you're conveying. Now, from a European standpoint, and more specifically a Danish standpoint, of course you should have that diverse knowledge, but it's much more one job, one person, one expertise. Much more focused on, and this is in the humanities and in science, technology, engineering, and maths as well. You're expected to be more specialized, and your profile should convey that. And so as a result, when they come across someone with a more American profile, there's an assumption that that person isn't specialized or isn't focused, or they haven't honed in. And that's a fairly interesting difference, because it's both systems obviously work, and both systems create very innovative and capable academics and business professionals. But the result and the process and the mentality that results, as well as where the strong suits are and the strong areas and the weaknesses are, ends up being very different. And that's something that's almost never discussed, I find, when discussing the difference between academics and academic success post and in degree in the U.S. versus in Europe. So it's something to keep in mind, and I think it's something that's very cool and very interesting. Hopefully that helps you better understand the approach that drives European education and the path that students coming through a European education take, as opposed to the path that those going through an education in the US or the UK, Canada, or Australia have gone through. They are definitely not the same, and I think that there's a big disservice a lot of times because people assume that the two are more or less identical.